Hey awesome fans, the Megashark, and today I'm reacted to Dr. Bob's. It is tongue twisted. So let's go.
A right hook sends the kid spinning down to the
Oh my
grass outside
gosh.
the middle school.
What
He
the?
can't stand the bully. But as he spits a wad of blood-tinged saliva onto the ground,
Ew.
he has to admit through his aching jaw that the bully can throw one hell of a punch. A circle
I
of kids
hate
around the two of them
bullies.
chant and laugh as others record it on their phones to post to
That
social
is
media later.
so mean.
The kid's heart pounds with anger and fear. It's all so unspeakably cruel, he thinks, and yet it feels like he's powerless to stop it. The bully stands over him, rubbing the knuckles of his punching hand. He looks larger than life to the kid, a towering figure of malice and strength. He may only be 13, but when you're 11, like the kid,
Oh
that's
my
a world of
gosh.
difference. The kid tries to reason his way out, but that ship has already sailed. The bully gives him a mean kick in the face that squeezes the breath out of his lungs.
That is
If I wanted
so
to hear you
mean.
talk, I'd work you like a puppet, dweeb, the bully says
That's
with
so
a malicious
mean.
laugh. All the rest of the crowd laughs along with him. Maybe he should run, or maybe he could just let the beating happen. It would be easier that way, and the pain would fade by tomorrow. But something inside him, something stubborn, whispers that he can't just keep running. The kid can't take this any longer. He needs to
do
fight
whatever
back.
you need
Summoning
to
up all of
do.
his strength, he leaps up and unleashes a punch into the bully's face, staggering him a little.
Good job, boy.
He's a mathlete. Once the initial shock of the punch wears off, the kid is mortified to see just how little damage he's done. That's it, the bully snarls. Now I'm really gonna destroy you. The kid
Oh my
closes his
gosh.
eyes and
Oh my
braces for
gosh.
a punch, but nothing happens. He barely opens one eye to peek and sees a teacher emerging from the front doors of the middle school and walking towards them. He's been saved. But as the teacher approaches, the kid watches in disbelief as the bully's whole demeanor changes in an instant. His scowl softens, his posture relaxes, and suddenly the same face that sneered at him just moments ago shifts into a wide-eyed look of concern, like he's ready to lend a helping hand. The kid can barely process it. The bully's become the perfect picture of innocence, even going so far as to reach a hand down towards him. He wasn't beating the kid up. He was just helping him up after he tripped. He's so clumsy after all. And the worst part is, the teacher buys it. The kid's pulse pounds in his ears as he glances at the teacher, then back to the bully, who's now wearing a practiced, saintly expression. The crowd around them shifts too, putting on shocked, sympathetic faces, like they're all part of the same act. It's surreal, like a play where he's the only one who didn't get a script. The kid opens his mouth to protest, to shout the truth, but the words die in his throat. He knows they'd only look at him like he was the liar here.
Oh my gosh.
More than the pain
The
in his
poor
bruised
kid.
ribs. The kid can only run away from it all, tears stinging his eyes. He knows that if he sticks around until the teacher leaves, there will only be another savage beatdown waiting for him. He runs away from the school, past the bus, and all the way into town, just wanting to get away from it all. He wishes he could give the bully a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah.
That's impossible. He's just too good at playing goody-goody when the adults are looking. It seems like the kid is destined to be on the bottom of the social pecking order forever.
The poor kid.
Resigned to what he's sure will be a long life of misery, he slips into a narrow, shadowy alley between two stores, pulling his knees to
I
his
feel
chest.
sorry for the
No one
kid.
can see him here. No one can hurt him. He squeezes his eyes shut, trying to block out the sting of his frustration and helplessness. But deep down, he knows it's useless. If only there was a way to make them all understand, to turn the tables, even just once. That's when he hears an almost theatrical clearing of the throat. Startled, he looks
Hello?
up to see a figure standing at the mouth of the alley.
Is
It's
that
a man, or at least
SCP?
he looks like a man, dressed in a sharp, old-fashioned suit with a colorful swirling
Yep, that's
cape
a
and a
SCP.
mustache that practically defies gravity. The stranger looks like he stepped out of a storybook. His eyes gleam with an unsettling warmth as he extends a gloved
Okay.
hand toward the kid.
That's the
Chin up, young
SCP.
man, the stranger says, his voice smooth and oddly comforting. A little bird told me you're in need of a little assistance. The kid's heart races as he stares at the stranger, feeling a strange mixture of caution and curiosity. The man's appearance seems almost too perfect, like he's
That's the
practiced this moment
SCP.
100 times before.
Be
The kid's
careful.
instincts scream at him to be wary. No one ever just appears like this. There's something mesmerizing about the man's calm smile, and the way he twirls the end of his mustache with a practiced flick. Even when the stranger dips his hand into his jacket and pulls out a handful of brightly wrapped lollipops, each one gleaming in the dim light, the kid feels his worries fading,
That's the
replaced by an odd
SCP.
sense of relief. Like maybe, just maybe, this is exactly what he's been waiting for.
Oh,
These,
shoot.
the stranger says with a wink, are a little unconventional. A one-time solution for a particular sort of problem. All it takes is a single lick from that dreadful bully of yours, and you'll have all the revenge you could dream of. As simple as that, he says with a wink. Just make sure he actually tastes it. And don't worry, its effects are completely unforgettable.
Oh,
He
no.
offers the kid a lollipop, his smile widening.
Oh,
All he needs to
the...
do is ensure that his bully licks the lollipop, and then he'll be able to have his revenge. It's really that simple. As though it's simple to convince his worst enemy to lick a lollipop.
This is
Consider it
gonna
a
end up bad.
temporary adjustment, he adds with a conspiratorial grin. A little taste of poetic justice. But remember, there's no going back once he's had a taste. So use it wisely. The kid hesitates for only a moment before reaching out and
Don't.
accepting a lollipop from
Don't.
the stranger. Dr. Wondertainment watches him, his smile widening. Good choice, he murmurs. I suspect this will
Oh,
be
shoot.
life-changing.
Oh, shit.
The next day, the bully receives a letter slipped into his locker early
Any
in the morning.
kids watching
Wouldn't
this,
you know it?
never
It's from the
take
girl he's had a crush on all year.
candy from
In the letter,
strangers.
she
It's
confesses her
dangerous.
love and seals the deal with a gift.
Never talk
A
to
lollipop.
strangers. Never take
The
candy
bully's heart
from
flutters, and with a
strangers.
smirk of disbelief, he unwraps the lollipop and tries it. His expression instantly turns to confusion, and he pauses, pulling the lollipop from his mouth. There's something odd about the taste, a strange, bitter tang, like he just licked the bottom of a shoe, but mixed with sugar. He winces, almost spitting it out, but then glances around and steels himself, deciding to play it cool. After all, it's a gift from her, and she could be watching. Maybe it's supposed to taste like this. He checks the wrapper on the candy. It says, Dr. Wondertainment's tantalizing tongue twisters.
It's from Dr.
Asphalt
Wonder.
flavor.
Oh my
What
gosh.
kind of joke candy is this? He takes another cautious lick, hoping the bitterness will fade. But instead, the taste grows stronger, leaving an unpleasant numbness on his tongue. Before he can figure out why the candy tastes so off, he notices the teacher approaching down the hall. Great, probably here to check up on him after yesterday's incident. No problem, he'll turn on his usual charm, play the model student, and then... But when he opens his mouth to speak, a sharp, jagged string of curse words explodes from his lips. Every head in the hallway turns, and a silence settles over the crowd. The bully's eyes widen.
Oh.
Those weren't his words. In fact, he's not even sure he moved his mouth at all. The teacher's face goes pale, her lips thinning as she glares down at him. What did you just say to me? She asks, each word clipped and icy. The bully opens his mouth to apologize, but his voice betrays him again. He tries to clamp his lips shut, but they twist into an angry snarl as another
Oh,
outburst erupts
boy.
from his mouth. This time even worse than before. He can't stop it. Each word feels like someone else is forcing it out, dragging his voice along with it. It's like watching himself in a nightmare. He's saying the most horrific words, the most...
Oh my
horrible insults,
gosh.
all directed at the teacher in front of him. He's utterly mortified that he's somehow spewing all of these obscenities. To him, it doesn't even sound like his own voice, but rather
No.
someone imitating him.
Yep.
By the time he's done, he's standing there in harrowed silence in front of everyone. Before he can even try to offer more words to defend himself, the teacher's hand grips his wrist and drags him down the hall. His ruse has been destroyed. He'll
Yeah.
probably be in detention until high school. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the school, the kid sits in the AV room, watching it all unfold on the security feed. His face curves into a grin as he listens to the bully's pitiful apologies and excuses, each one sweeter than he could have ever imagined. The taste of revenge
Oh
is exhilarating,
boy.
almost addicting.
Oh
But as the kid
no.
laughs, unaware of the full implications, a shadow falls over his face on the screen, as though something else is watching,
Yep.
waiting. But while the kid revels in his victory, the true nature of Dr. Wondertainment's tantalizing tongue twisters trademark remains as twisted and enigmatic as his creator.
Yep.
Revenge may be sweet, but as the SCP Foundation has discovered, these candies leave a bitter aftertaste
Yep.
for everyone who dares to use them. On the
Yep.
surface, these suckers appear to be nothing more than a strange confection, a harmless novelty. But as the SCP Foundation has come to learn, these tantalizing tongue
dangerous.
twisters trademark are anything but innocent. In fact, they're classified as SCP-3147, a product of Dr. Wondertainment, designed to sow discord in the most curious ways. And yes, I am, unfortunately, legally obliged to say the trademark part, due to the actions of Dr. Wondertainment's thaumaturgic lawyers. At face value, there's very little that seems actively anomalous about instances of SCP-3147.
Yeah.
They're small lollipops made of a sphere of hard candy on the end of a white stick, covered in a wrapper that features Dr. Wondertainment branding, as well as the flavor of the item in question, which, as you've seen, and will further see, can
Yep.
skew a little bizarre. The same
Makes
cannot be said of these
you
candies
say
on a molecular
bitter
level.
things.
Foundation testing has yielded no progress in finding anything anomalous about the candy itself, or the packaging containing it. If you enjoy one of these candies alone, you're unlikely to even notice anything strange about them. The anomalous effects of SCP-3147 only
Yeah.
kick in once the candy has been licked by at least 2 people, which I personally find to be terribly unsanitary, even when
Yep,
you're dealing
that's
with
bad.
non-anomalous candy.
That's bad.
When a second person, or any others beyond that, lick an instance of SCP-3147 that was first licked by someone else, their oral cavity will come under the control of another member of the group. See what I mean about it being highly conceptual? While
Yeah.
under the anomalous effect, not only will their mouth be at the mercy of another licker, but they will speak with the voice of the person controlling them. The amount of time the person remains affected is directly proportional to the amount of candy ingested by the subject, with the current minimums and maximums,
Yep.
with some variation, being 2 to 24 minutes.
Wow, that's
And
a
because
bit.
nothing involving Dr. Wondertainment
Whoa,
is ever easy
what
to deal
those
with, these
dolls?
candies are rarely packaged alone. While they can be sold individually, the SCP Foundation has confiscated boxes with as many as 10 items per pack.
Wow.
These packs will often feature the following typically quirky Dr. Wondertainment ad copy. New from Dr. Wondertainment, the mouth-watering treat that will have you speaking in tongues. Need a party pick-me-up? Just gather 2 or 3 of your bestest friends.
No,
Pick out your
thank
favorite
you.
flavor of Dr. Wondertainment's tantalizing tongue twisters trademark, and you're good to go. Let everyone get a tongue-teasing taste, then marvel as you give each other the gift of gab. Warning, maximum fun achieved with 4 friends. Dr. Wondertainment trademark and his candy crafting crew are not liable for any damages, physical, psychological, emotional, and or paranatural.
Oh my
caused by
gosh.
sharing Dr. Wondertainment's tantalizing tongue twisters trademark among 5 or more people. Play safe, kids.
Sorry.
In context, that last comment feels almost sarcastic. After coming into possession of several packs of the anomalous contraband candy, Dr. James Smythe was put in charge of conducting experiments on members of D-Class personnel to explore the full potential effects of SCP-3147. It probably won't surprise you to hear that things went very quickly off the rails. In the
Oh,
first
wow.
experiment, acting as a kind of control, D2172 alone was given an instance of SCP-3147 to sample. The flavor was
Yeah.
sandy seashell.
Ew.
D2172 ingested everything that was given to him, except for the stick in the packaging, and experienced
Did
no
he
anomalous
eat
effects,
it?
though he did report that the flavor was comparable to cream soda filtered through wet sand. Yummy. The next experiment was conducted on D2172 and D56980, using a candy with the flavor label Shoe Shine. The duo gained control of each other's mouths, which was an extremely strange experience for both of them.
Yep.
Smythe then gave them both a tongue twister to recite using the other one's mouth. This proved to be difficult, given the inherent difficulty of the tongue twister itself, plus the inherent disorientation of being in control of someone else's mouth rather than your own. It's a feeling I can't personally say I can relate to.
That'd be
Dr.
so
Smythe
weird.
noted, flavor said to be like leathery licorice. Despite the difficulties experienced using another person's mouth to speak, both subjects expressed that they enjoyed the experience and wished to continue taking part in future experiments with SCP-3147. With the next experiment, Dr. Smythe hoped to up the ante even further by having 4 different D-classes all lick the anomalous lollipop.
Ew!
Admittedly, sounds a little uncomfortable to settle out. These men were D2172, D11872, D42271, and D56980. The flavor of lollipop they were given was the extremely unappetizing pickled pepper.
Ew!
Incidentally, 4 subjects is also the maximum number recommended by the official packaging, so they were really pushing their limits on this one.
Yep.
Each time a different D-class licked the lollipop, they gained control of the mouth of the previous person who licked it, and thanks to being given permission to ingest all the candy on the stick, this effect remained for 15 minutes. And this time, they all conversed freely, enjoying the surreal nature of the experience. Dr. Smythe noted, flavor exactly as expected. On a personal note, I feel sorry for our poor transcriptionist. It was difficult enough for the Ds themselves to keep track of exactly who was talking. The goal of the next test was not to test how many people could be affected by the anomaly, but some of its potential applications. In this case, how it would interface with voice recognition technology. The subjects in this case were D2172 and D56980, and the flavor was the enigmatic chucked wood. After consuming the candy, they were given a voice-locked container, coded to open, when it heard D56980 say, "Open Sesame." While D56980 stood on the other side of the room, D2172 approached the box. D56980 spoke through D2172's mouth, successfully unlocking the box on the second attempt. They continued testing this method with a variety of other voice recognition technologies, and the rate of success did not change as this variable shifted. Dr. Smythe noted, thankfully, the inability of the subject to directly use the voice that they have taken keeps SCP-3147 from being a substantial security threat. The next experiment was performed on another 4 members of D-Class personnel, D2172, D11872, D42271, and D56980. This time, the flavor selected was Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Ew, that's gross.
Now Dr. Smythe felt it was time to discover the distance that the anomalous effects were operational over. That's why, after having them each consume an equal amount of the candy, Smythe had the 4 affected subjects stand at equidistant points around the perimeter of Site-272, and then were told to speak, conveying specific messages on behalf of researchers supervising them. When the subjects got over the initial disorientation of not being able to hear their own voices as they spoke, things went swimmingly. Messages were cleanly conveyed between each member of affected D-Class personnel that did not degrade in quality despite the distance, and they were able to do this for approximately 21 minutes. Really? The most optimistic of the researchers' estimations. Dr. Smythe noted, further testing at longer distances is required. Plans are being drafted, and an appropriate test site will be located before submitting the proposed experiment to the site director for approval. If the Foundation can reverse engineer this effect, it could possibly be used as an emergency communication method. In a grim piece of tempting fate, things got out of hand during the 13th SCP-3147 experiment, when researchers pushed the boundaries just a little too far.
What did they do?
They exceeded the recommended number of participants per candy and used 5 test subjects.
Oh,
the flavor was bitter butter, and the results were disastrous for all involved.
Oh no.
During testing, the 5th member of the group, D42271, found her mouth being controlled by a little girl speaking from an unknown location, much to the confusion of the researchers and the other D-classes in the test group. The little girl cried for help through the D-class's mouth, and when she was questioned by Dr. Smythe about her location, she said, "I don't know. I was in a toy store with my mom, and I went to go look at the dolls. Then there was this big man that grabbed me when Mom wasn't looking, and he took me here. He said you needed to test stuff, and he keeps feeding me candy, and I don't like it anymore, and my tummy hurts, and Naturally, everyone in attendance was stressed by this,
Oh my gosh.
D42271 in particular. After a period of silence, the little girl's voice entered a state of audible panic. He's here! He's here! Tell him to go away! I can't eat anymore! Tell him to stop! Please make him stop! D42271 valiantly tried to help, screaming through a body she didn't know for the assailant to leave the little girl alone, even as she felt as though a metal contraption was forcing open her jaw. But then, her body doubled over and began profusely vomiting, making everyone
no!
and call off the experiment early. Experiments were done on D42271's vomit in the aftermath, and it contained trace amounts of several other anomalous food items, which I've taken care to catalog here. SCP-1916, Zero-G-Whiz Moonrocks trademark. These are a series of multicolored jawbreakers, each one corresponding to a different planet mostly in our solar system, including Martian Cherry, Venusian Berry, Lunar Lime, Jovian Jelly, Outer Space Strawberry, and Planet X. Depending on the gravitational state of the corresponding celestial body, the gravity of anyone eating the candy is also affected, either massively increasing or decreasing their weight without any alteration
Wow.
to their mass or shape. SCP-1842, Dr. Wondertainment's Magic Microwave Set trademark.
Oh my gosh.
This is a toy microwave that can convert a toxic clay substance, known as
Ew.
SCP-1842-2, into any edible substance that it's molded into. The resulting foodstuffs are known as SCP-1842-3,
Yeah.
which is harmless, but has no nutritional value whatsoever. It is what was found in the affected D-Class's vomit.
Whoa.
And also SCP-1079, Dr. Wondertainment's Bubble Bath Bonbons trademark. These are another bizarre and disturbing
bombs?
confection which, once consumed, transforms a non-dangerous portion of the subject's blood into bubble bath liquids.
Oh
which they then secrete in their skin,
no.
causing their body to be instantaneously clean, and likely leaving their clothes an uncomfortable, wet mess. All of this led to an extremely unsettling discovery. It seems that Dr. Wondertainment poses a danger to children beyond just their anomalous toys and confections. The 13th test indicated that the group of interest are kidnapping children to use as living guinea pigs for their various products against their will. A realization only intensified when Foundation collaboration with conventional law enforcement revealed that the little girl D42271 had channeled corresponded exactly with a young girl who had gone missing in Broken Cliff, Missouri.
Oh, the poor kid.
To be submitted for further testing on
The poor little girl.
Perhaps hoping that she could reconnect with the poor little girl and be a part of helping her escape the diabolical Dr. Wondertainment's clutches. This request, however, was denied out of security concerns. The Foundation has done what they can to keep a lid on this latest example of Dr. Wondertainment's whimsical mayhem. Containment procedures dictate that no more than 144 instances of SCP-3147 are to be contained in Safe Storage Locker 87A at Site-272 at any given time, and any others are to be noted and incinerated immediately.
Yeah.
The same goes for any advertising material discovered in the field. Physical instances are to be incinerated, and online instances are to be deleted. If a person is found to be in possession of an instance of SCP-3147, the anomalous item is to be confiscated immediately. And they are to be treated with Class A amnestics if they have witnessed any of SCP-3147's anomalous effects. The Foundation has also distributed materials related to a fake recall effort, claiming that exposure to SCP-3147 has a deliriant effect on victims. As you've already seen, researchers have had their fun performing experiments with this confectionery anomaly, but that doesn't mean these experiments aren't tightly regulated. Experiment proposals must be submitted to research lead Dr. James Smythe for approval.
Very dangerous.
Any experiments involving 5 or more test subjects must also be approved by the site director and overseen personally by Dr. Smythe, just to make sure nobody uses research privileges irresponsibly. A wise owl was once asked, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? When it comes to Dr. Wondertainment's tantalizing tongue twisters trademark, this wise old researcher recommends you play it safe and stick to chocolate. Check out the Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-1...
Okay, doing another Dr. Bob one. It is You've Been Awfully Quiet. So let's get to it.
The lights go out. As the room plunges into darkness, A familiar
Wow.
sense of unease returns. Reardon closes his eyes, listening. The low buzz of electricity fades into the hum of distant cars. Then, the sounds of people. Footsteps. The sound of a city
This is not
bustling with
good.
life. His eyes flick open as a wave of sudden relief sweeps over him. He's somewhere familiar.
This is weird.
People, dogs, coffee shops, buses, life. Despite the chaotic noise, it's comforting. There's little that Reardon can be sure of, but he knows a few
That
things.
is weird.
His name, Reardon. He has naturally
Yeah,
white hair
I
and
waited.
empty, black, soulless eyes.
Wow.
His skin is tinted a bright orange. His thin and gangly frame, usually covered in an oversized t-shirt that's covered in mustard stains.
Yeah.
He also knows that he smells vaguely like potatoes. Human or not, he plays the part well. As
What
Reardon's bare
is he?
feet slap against the cold, rough sidewalk, the sting of the asphalt jolts him. His feet are numb, and each step sends a sharp, electrifying shock
That's
through
not
him.
good.
It's strange, uncomfortable, even painful, but it's different.
Yeah.
Nice. All 19 years of his life have been spent behind the walls of Site 6800, living the same day on repeat. Watching 10 movies a day, trying to make Dr. Fenwick proud. Walking around an actual city is like stepping into a new, exhilarating world. The
Yeah, it would
sights,
be good.
The sounds, they draw Reardon in. His eyes dart from one face to the next, lingering on each person who passes by. Men in suits jabber into their phones, barking about buying and selling and something called a grind set. Groups of younger humans, teenagers he thinks they're called, laugh as they walk and talk.
Yep.
In the distance, he spots a long bridge made of red metal disappearing into the horizon. Tiny cars trundling across it. Reardon peers into windows, looking past his ghostly reflection. People stand in a line, waiting to order from a big board
Ooh,
covered in
look
images
yummy.
of food.
Yep.
There's
Food.
real food here.
Yep.
Actual things to bite. And biting things is one of his two favorite things. A deafening noise shatters Reardon's thoughts. It drowns out the buzz around him. Then, just as quickly, everything
What
goes
is it?
quiet as people turn to look up at the sky.
What is
Reardon
it?
copies the others, craning his neck upwards, staring at the source of the noise. A shape looms overhead, casting a long shadow.
Oh
over the
my
city.
gosh.
People stare, mouths open at the underside of the object. A huge, yawning rectangle. A gate. Or a mouth. The mysterious shapes descend through the clouds, lower and lower. The ominous
Oh my
emptiness
gosh.
swallows the light as it gets closer. Then there's another sound. A deafening, shattering. Reardon jerks his head up. A
Okay.
storm of glass and metal
Oh my
rains down to the
gosh.
street as the top of a nearby building
Hide.
is ripped off.
Hide.
A sliver of glass slices Reardon's
Ah, they gotta
A
hurt.
streak of blood snakes its way downwards in its wake, but he can't even look at the injury. His eyes
He's
are locked
shocked.
on the people. There are people in the building being lifted up into the
Oh my
air.
gosh,
Some
just
invisible force
hide.
is dragging them upwards, swirling and spinning as the mass of
Snap
people and
out of
building
it.
parts being
Just
thrown around
hide.
start to ignite in a fiery blaze. Through the howl of the wind,
Snap
the sound
out of
the
it.
building
Just
collapsing,
hide.
Reardon can hear screams.
Wait a minute.
On the street,
Hide.
a tsunami of panic sweeps through the crowd. People shove and jostle, eyes wide with terror, as they try to flee. But it's useless.
Hide.
There's no escape.
Hide.
Above, the shape plunges lower.
Oh my
swinging over the
gosh.
building into the vortex. Surrounding buildings shake, walls crumble, and glass shatters. The air is thick with screams as more people and debris are added to the violent storm.
Oh
Sucked
my
up into a
gosh.
fiery tornado. Suddenly, a strange
Oh, no.
sensation grips Reardon. A weightlessness, like being caught in a current. The cold, abrasive ground vanishes beneath his feet.
Well
All
then.
around him are the screams of terrified people.
Oh,
thrown
no, no,
around,
no.
crushed, burning, dying. And beneath his fear, Reardon is faced with the overwhelming
then.
dread of knowing that he's had this exact dream before. The lights flicker on. The burning tornado, filled with thousands of screaming souls. Closer. Closer. Reardon hates waking up.
Well
The
then, wake
sterile,
up.
oppressive light creeps between his eyelids, stinging his retinas and forcing him out of bed. It's cold, artificial, like everything else around here. The plastic sheets underneath him cling to his skin. Night sweats again. As much as he hates waking up like this day after day, dreaming isn't much of an escape. The nightmare is always the same. He can see a huge spaceship suspended in the sky above a city. A fire tornado spins directly beneath it, devouring everything in its path, sweeping terrified people off the ground, pulling them up into the air, and burning them. Reardon has already told Dr. Fenwick, the containment case manager. Even she's stumped by the dream. By now, you're likely familiar with SCP-001, the designation used by the Foundation to refer to multiple different anomalies.
Yep.
It remains unknown which of these are real and which are falsified. If any of them were truly the first SCP ever encountered by the Foundation, or if these were simply anomalies that were contained before the current SCP numerical designation system was implemented.
There's so many
there
of
have
them.
long been rumors about SCP-001, with some claiming that the true nature of this anomaly is intrinsically linked to the Foundation itself. It could shed light on the organization's true untold origin, such as Swan's proposal codenamed the Database, or Man's proposal of the Spiral Path. However, some proposals for SCP-001 aren't at all concerned with the beginnings of the SCP Foundation, but are instead focused on its termination. Dawood Ewan Fullerton's proposal for SCP-001 is one of these. There have been plenty of anomalies that divulge details of events that have still to happen. How the SCP Foundation is able to gain such insight into the future depends on the nature of the anomaly involved. What remains unknown is when or how researcher Fullerton was able to learn of the upcoming events of the 3rd of January 2028. The proposal for SCP-001 doesn't just describe this day that is still years ahead of us, but the preceding days leading up to it too. As for the significance of this date in early January 2028, according to Fullerton, this is the day the SCP Foundation as we know it will be destroyed.
What?
The whole of planet Earth along with it. SCP-001, in the context of Fullerton's proposal, refers to a massive spacecraft. The origins of this interstellar vessel are not divulged in the proposal. However, while the spacecraft is known amongst the Foundation as SCP-001, it carries a different name among the public. In what would usually be a staggering violation of the SCP Foundation's normal operating procedures, the general public is aware of the existence of this anomaly. It is known to most as the January 3rd entity, although some have taken to calling it Terrar, after it was nicknamed this by NATO. Terrar was the name of a man born in France around 1772, renowned for having an insatiable appetite. Terrar was in a permanent state of hunger that could not be satiated no matter how much or what he ate. After being forced to leave home as a teenager, he would find work as a showman, consuming numerous objects that were otherwise inedible to ordinary people. During various medical tests conducted over the course of his life, Terrar ate live cats, snakes, lizards, entire eels, and even puppies. Modern doctors have since concluded that Terrar likely had polyphagia, an excessive hunger and ability to ingest a wide variety of not just food, but inedible objects too. Why would NATO want to associate SCP-001, a spacecraft, with the endless appetite of an 18th century Frenchman? Well, Fullerton's proposal does shed some unnerving light that makes it easy to see why people took to calling it Terrar. Measuring 20.58 kilometers in length, SCP-001 is a huge trapezoidal shape. It is almost 3.5 kilometers tall and just over 1.3 kilometers wide. Deep space probes and satellite imaging have revealed that this is no flat flying disk. The top of SCP-001 is occupied by a series of exactly 492 structures, each of varying shapes, heights, and sizes. However, closer examination of the images has revealed that these structures appear to be skyscrapers. The underside of the ship is predominantly comprised of a rectangle that covers around 79% of the craft's base. This area of the vessel is referred to as the Gate. Unmanned probes have revealed that this seemingly open rectangular area leads to a space that cannot be observed directly, but is estimated to be considerably bigger than the ship itself. It is unknown if this rectangular opening leads inside the ship, or if the internal space within is located elsewhere. Despite their best efforts in limited time, The SCP Foundation has been unable to determine the exact mass and volume of the unobservable space.
Oh my goodness.
Some theories emerged among researchers that the ship itself was dimensionally transcendental and contained a pocket dimension far larger than the exterior of the ship would suggest. The possibility of exploring this further, however, is next to none. Naturally, upon learning of SCP-001's existence in outer space, the SCP Foundation made numerous attempts to contact the vessel. Messages were beamed directly into space to establish some form of diplomatic communication with SCP-001, but no response was ever given. There was radio silence. No transmissions of any kind were ever sent from SCP-001 or received by the Foundation. Nobody at the Foundation was certain that SCP-001 was a manned vessel after all. Some speculated that a disaster of some kind could have occurred on board the spacecraft, setting it adrift.
Could be.
However, based on the observations made of the ship's trajectory, it seemed to be heading directly on a steady route towards Earth.
What?
Speculation that there might still be members of the crew on board the ship, either deceased or in suspended animation, has still remained prevalent among some of the researchers.
Oh my
Others have
goodness.
refuted these claims, instead determining SCP-001 to be an interstellar entity of some kind, a leviathan creature floating through space, as opposed to a mechanical vessel. However, without any indication of what SCP-001's exterior is made from, speculation is all the Foundation had. They couldn't even tell exactly what means it was employing to propel itself through space. Had there been more time, researchers may well have been able to determine exactly what SCP-001's true nature is.
Yeah.
The Foundation first became aware of SCP-001's presence on December 12th in the year 2027. The object was first spotted by deep space telescopes that detected a previously uncatalogued object in orbit around Venus. Around the time that SCP-001 was initially spotted, there were reports of catastrophic changes to the surface of Venus, which left members of both NASA and the SCP Foundation baffled.
Wow.
These changes,
Both
it was soon
of you
determined,
were
must have
baffled.
been the result of SCP-001 in orbit around the planet. Shortly after the initial detection of SCP-001, the vessel began heading for Earth.
That's
With
not
conventional
good.
methods of space travel, the distance between the Earth and Venus takes between 120 and 130 days, roughly 4 months worth of traveling through space. At minimum, the shortest known space flight to reach Venus from Earth was 109 days, almost 3.5 months.
That's not what
SCP-001
Venus
would
looks
cover
like.
the
That's what
25 million miles
Jupiter
between the two
looks
planets
like.
in just
Jupiter is
21
that
days.
orange color.
Space travel of this speed
Venus
was
is
impossible
a
for human
different
beings, and
color.
was only achievable through anomalous means. The Foundation was rapidly running out of options as to how to deal with the anomalous craft, if it was even a craft at all. With time rapidly running out, the SCP Foundation was forced to do something it rarely did: cooperate with other organizations. Despite the best efforts of the Foundation operatives secretly embedded within NASA, the craft's existence was quickly reported to those at the Global Occult Coalition. The GOC, the United Nations official arm for investigating the anomalous, had always kept a close watch on anything outside the norm. This often put them at odds with the SCP Foundation, who are largely unregulated, with no oversight from any world government. Where the GOC operates under the watchful eye of world governments, the Foundation works in the shadows. Although they are both concerned with containing anomalies and protecting the public, the different methodologies of the Foundation and the Coalition have made them uneasy allies at the best of times and outright rivals at the worst. But when the chips are down, you find out who your real friends are. Or in this case, when there's an alien spacecraft hurtling towards Earth with no signs of stopping, it's at least a little easier to let bygones be bygones. SCP Foundation emergency strategists were invited to join members of the Global Occult Coalition's Urgent Response Coordination Unit and work together to devise a suitable way to neutralize SCP-001 before it reached Earth. On its current trajectory, and provided it didn't increase its propulsion speed, the vessel would arrive in the planet's atmosphere in a matter of days. The GOC were typically in favor of the outright destruction of anomalies, whereas the Foundation wasn't against utilizing the SCPs they encountered. But desperate times were truly calling for desperate measures. The Coalition strategists devised several potential options that involved deploying other SCPs to prevent the approach of SCP-001. If not, outright destroy the vessel entirely. One of their plans was to have the Foundation call upon SCP-343, a powerful reality bender who often claimed to be the sole creator of the universe, even believed by some to be God himself. Since there were reportedly no known limitations to SCP-343's powers, the Global Occult Coalition suggested it would be fairly easy for him to simply snap his fingers and cause SCP-001 to vanish from existence.
Oh my goodness.
The Foundation, however, vetoed this plan, stating in their reasoning that while SCP-343 was friendly, they weren't convinced he was all that trustworthy. There had been rumors circulating among some Foundation researchers that the anomalous reality warper was deceiving them somehow. Some even suggested that SCP-343 had used his abilities to remove a particular Foundation doctor from reality to maintain
Oh my
cover.
goodness.
While that possibility was still being investigated, the Foundation strategy team stated, it was unwise to rely on SCP-343. One of the more ambitious solutions devised by the GOC's strategists was to gather up a group of SCPs who could be easily coerced into assisting the Foundation.
Yeah.
This proposed team would be selected for their wide variety of anomalous abilities, in the interest of deploying them as the Earth's ultimate line of defense against SCP-001's approach. There was even the strong consideration that these anomalies could be made to board a shuttle and transported directly to the incoming interstellar vessel. They would then be tasked with disabling SCP-001, diverting its collision course with Earth, or finding some way to destroy it entirely. Foundation staff vehemently refused to accept the GOC's proposal to refer to them as superheroes when considering this course of action.
What?
The proposed roster for this anomalous strike team was both strategic and chilling. Leading the team was SCP-049, the Plague Doctor, known for his sympathy toward the Foundation's cause. His ability to kill via direct skin contact made him an ideal candidate in case SCP-001 harbored an extraterrestrial crew. SCP-4494, the Spectre, was also chosen. A physical manifestation of crime fighting, SCP-4494 was the perfect figure to reinforce the mission's purpose, the preservation of human life at any cost.
Yeah.
SCP-2800, known to himself as Cactus Man, real name Daniel McIntyre, was a natural choice.
Daniel McIntyre.
His resilience
Cool
to extreme
name.
heat and ability to survive without water for extended periods made him an ideal candidate for the unknown conditions surrounding SCP-001. His unique defense mechanism, sharp spines he could extrude at will, provided an additional tactical value. If SCP-001 was a living organism rather than just a ship, these spines could potentially target and disable key parts of its brain or central nervous system, neutralizing the threat from within. With lethality in mind, SCP-076-2, also called Able, was considered for this team.
Hey, April.
As an immortal, surviving in space would be no problem for SCP-076-2.
Okay.
While he was known for aggression and homicidal tendencies, it was hoped that SCP-001 would present enough of a challenge for Able to divert his focus, rather than seeking out and attacking human beings. His additional ability to manifest weapons was thought to have a high level of utility for the mission, as was his superhuman strength.
That's pretty cool.
Pandora's box didn't go all that well in the end, but this was a more desperate situation.
Yeah.
Also considered was SCP-3542, real name Renard D. Jacinto, although known to prefer the alias of the Red Fox. SCP-3542 possessed the ontokinetic ability to create items and materials that could be used to help with emergency events.
That's cool.
This would lead to him being indispensable in the event of a catastrophic hull breach, should the strike team accidentally damage the interior walls of SCP-001. The Red Fox was also known to be able to teleport to the locations of emergencies to offer aid, leading some GOC strategists to consider the possibility of sending him up to deal with SCP-001 alone. However, once again, the Foundation vetoed this course of action.
Why?
They claimed that there wasn't enough time to convince the selected anomalies and that they had the potential to pose as much danger to the public as SCP-001. By this point, the SCP Foundation and Global
They should just
Coalition were
give them
dazed
a
as they're
chance.
strategizing. One of the more daring strategies thrown out was to negotiate a bargain with SCP-738.
Oh my gosh.
SCP-001. Once again, Foundation researchers denied the request. SCP-738's modus operandi was simple yet insidious. It offered deals in exchange for a price, one that had to match in full the harm or destruction resulting from the deal. Using this devil's deal to neutralize SCP-001 could result in an equivalent
Just deal
catastrophe
with the
elsewhere on Earth.
first deal. Put
With
the
Foundation's strategists
SCPs
refusing
there
to
to
budge
help.
and vetoing all suggestions, it soon became apparent to the GOC Urgent Response Coordinators that something else was going on here.
Yeah.
It didn't take long for accusations of stalling to start being levied against the Foundation. Accusations that were, as it turned out, correct. Coalition coordinators informed their security forces that the Foundation's personnel were only present to intentionally delay strategizing efforts.
What?
However, the moment that GOC security entered the meeting room, all of the Foundation strategists
Oh
lay dead.
my
Each one of them had
gosh.
been issued with capsules of termination compound CF12, a 92% effective drug developed by the Foundation that, when taken orally, induced a momentary euphoric state, followed by a quick and painless death. The
Oh
SCP
my
Foundation
gosh.
had no intention of cooperating with the Global Occult Coalition.
Oh my
The strategist
gosh.
team had really just stalled, while the Foundation's real contingency plan for SCP-001 went underway. Project Valkyria had long been established as the Foundation's go-to strategy for this exact scenario. They knew that there was no feasible means of containing SCP-001, even temporarily. So instead, while their strategists distracted the GOC, the remaining personnel of the Foundation had focused their efforts on an interstellar evacuation of the planet. But they didn't have the time to take nearly 8 billion civilians to the stars either. Not all Foundation personnel were selected to join Project Valkyria. Only a chosen few received the opportunity to participate. The rest were left behind on Earth with CF-12 termination capsules. As SCP-001 entered Earth's upper atmosphere, the Foundation escaped into space. Those left behind didn't survive for long, meaning there was nobody left equipped to stop the oncoming spacecraft. The Global Occult Coalition was left scrambling to launch whatever armed response they could muster, mobilizing their assets within the United States and Canadian militaries. But it wouldn't matter. As SCP-001 reached just over 12 kilometers above ground level, the internal temperature below the rectangular gate section increased. Thermal imaging readings showed it elevating to around 1700 degrees Celsius.
What is he saying? The one at the beginnings,
huge portions of buildings,
he
entire
said
city
this
blocks,
will happen.
were all pulled upwards into the gate of SCP-001. SCP-001 hadn't come to attack the Earth. There was no invasion, no subjugation,
Oh my
not
goodness.
even any alien abductions. It was there to feed, just like Terrar.
Oh my
Military jets
goodness.
scrambled by the Coalition screamed through the air, launching missiles at the ship, but their projectiles were drawn into the
So
vortices,
that guy's
along
dream
with
at the
planes they were
beginning
fired
was
from.
showing what will
Despite the
happen
best
in the
efforts of an
future.
underprepared GOC, nothing worked. All military countermeasures were useless against SCP-001. Running out of options, they attempted their ultimate resort, a nuclear strike. It also failed. The nuclear device fired at SCP-001 entered the seemingly endless space within its mouth.
Oh my
Detonation was
goodness.
reported, but no change was observed. There was no damage, no flash of light, not so much as a sound.
Oh my
It took
gosh.
SCP-001 a little under 17 and a half minutes to consume Mount Rainier in Washington. The entirety of downtown Seattle was
Oh
pulled
my
into the vortex
goodness.
and incinerated in just over 2 hours. Within 3 months, 2.3 million human lives were lost across North America. To add salt to the wound, a transmission was received from the Foundation across all official channels only days after SCP-001's assault began. The automated message stated, "Project Valkyria is no longer accepting new passengers. If you are seeing this message, you will never be forgotten." But if all of this is true and has or will come to pass, then how do the lights at Foundation Site 6800 still flicker above Reardon? Check out
I've
the
no
Dr. Bob
idea.
Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-5056.
Okay, awesome fans. That'll be it for now. Don't forget hit that like button and comment down below. And please subscribe. I need up to 1,000 subscribers, please. Bye.